Hi, welcome to another video about me demoing and giving some explanations on how I created the dynamic PDF MCP backend and front end using Voiceflow AI agents. Well, now we're into the part where I'm talking about where I actually use the dynamically created JSON files in order for the front end, being Voiceflow AI agents, to ask the appropriate questions based on the dynamic JSON files that's provided to them. So the first thing what happens when it gets into here, it's going to create a list of the available templates that are on the server. Now, if you watch some of the other videos, I explain on how it does that. If you haven't watched them, I encourage you to watch the whole playlist, because in order to fully understand what's going on through any one of these videos, you need to kind of like watch the playlist from start to the end. And if you want to get any updates, because this is my whole idea of this project, is to find out if it's worth my while spending any more time on this, because to provide the final product, I'm looking at about 6 months development, unless I get some funders or some other developers who want to get involved in it to where we can accelerate it. But by myself, looking at my timelines through all of my analysis, I'm looking at 6 months. So I don't want to invest that kind of time unless I get people making comments, sending me messages through PMing me on Discord or any other. My email address is out there. You'll see it in my videos. Fire me an email, say, yeah, I like this, Gerry. Let's move forward. So moving on, when it gets into this step where it's trying to get the information, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to fire an API call using this function. Now, all of this will be available for you within the Voiceflow template. You can find it in the description. You'll be able to find it on Voiceflow Discord. And if they choose to put any information on Voiceflow website themselves, it'll be available there. That's up to them. I'm just doing this because I like their product. I'm supporting them. They're not paying me to do this. It's all voluntary. So take it or leave it. So in this function, what you're going to see it's going to do is just a normal get function. Everything's hard coded in here because this is a temporary environment. Even the API keys, they're only going to be available for a couple of weeks while you guys try this out. I only have the one API key because I haven't developed the front end where you can make API keys and everything else. It's a proof of concept. It's where do I go from here? Do I go from here? So you'll find all this information in the template. So this first call is to an API called templates, and it's going to return all available templates. So basically simple get. You can study this function if you want. It's documented to some degree. My more difficult functions that I wrote are well documented. This is just a simple one. I didn't bother documenting it. So we can go out of this function right now. Let me get out of here. And I think I can just run it without the API key. No, I have to have the API key. So let me see. I was going to keep that as a variable, and I did. So let's just add it as a variable here. Um, why isn't it showing it? I guess I don't know that it is in there. It's in there, but we'll do it another way. So let's just start it and we'll run it, and that'll be the better way to show it. So I'm going to run the thing right now. And when we run it, you'll see what it does is it calls that API. It gets the dynamic PDFs that are available in the template folder on the server, and it offers them to the user. That you didn't have to do anything. That was all done by the API call and by the function. So let's just take a look on how it did that part. And to do that, I think that's actually in the function itself too, if I recall. It's been a while since I coded it. Payload, yeah, right here, buttons. So it actually creates the choice of buttons, and it creates those buttons all dynamically. This is pretty simple because Voiceflow is great for those kinds of things. Where the challenge came for me was being able to trap the event that happened there, because Voiceflow is new to me. I'm old school, so I had to figure out how to do that. So I did figure it out by using this JavaScript that I discovered here. I partly wrote it, partly discovered it. So let's take a look at that. So what it will do is it'll take the last event payload, it'll parse that payload, and it'll find out the entity's template, and then it'll get the template name. So when that user actually clicks it, I know which template they selected. So now I can move forward. First off, they call the API, get the available templates. The user selects which template they want to fill out, for instance, bill of sale, and then the program can move to the next step. So in this specific instance, because I know it's for vehicles, what would happen next is you would have to get the VIN information. Now, the reason the VIN information was important for me, so I trapped the VIN information here. The reason this was important to me was for this other function. Now, in this function, what I do, and you can see I'm starting to get a little more commented in here because it starts to get a little more complicated. I'm actually making an API call. It validates the VIN, gets all this information, but the key thing here is that it actually calls an API that will return everything that is logged on this specific server about that vehicle. So it'll give you what kind of motor is in it. What, is it a sedan? Is it what year it is? That kind of information. I'm only picking out certain things because the PDF that I'm generating doesn't need anymore, but it has a plethora. Yeah, forget how to say that, but anyways, it's got a lot of information. So like, what does it show? Yeah, right here, I'm just grabbing specific data. But if you actually look at the return from that API, you'll see it turns, if you turn on your trace when you're running this template, you'll see in the trace there's tons of information that you can extract if you ever want to using this function. So even though you don't want to use my API or anything, you can make use of this function if you ever want to find out anything about vehicles. So I hope that helps out people who just want to do that. So now we make the API function. We got information about the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab a valid VIN here, and we will run this to that point. So I'm going to run the test now. So it goes and it grabs the templates that are available. I'm going to say that I want to create a bill of sale. It's going to ask me for the VIN number. Now let me turn on the trace so I can actually show you this. Okay, so let's go here and fire that. Now I'm going to fire this off. And it's going to call that API. Now if you look at the information that's returned on here, it's jumping through a lot of processes here. Just let me be patient here. A lot of information here. Legal name, oh, that's something else I'm going to discuss later. Okay, so here you can see all the information that's returned from that API call, right? So it has, if it has passed the safety, um, previous repairs, it's kind of like when you get a basic kind of information as well. So let's move on to this. So now it's decoded it. It's identified this vehicle because that's what it was only trapping. So now it wants to move forward. So before it moves forward, what it's going to do is make another API call based on the template to get all the fields that are required. So let's take a look at where that is. So let me just get out of here. So it made that API call. This is where we were at here, where it made, that was the function that just fired. Then it says it's got it. It displayed the vehicle information. Then it goes into this capture fields function. Now, if we go into this capture fields function, this is where the nuts and bolts of everything happens. So it grabs all the, let's take a look at the variables. It grabs all of the the template fields, both the required and the optional. The VIN has already been captured by the user. The collected data is what, as the AI agent collects information, it starts to append it to this collected data JSON file. And then this field value is actually, we're trying to collect one value at a time. Now, the thing is, because this iterates through here, you have to maintain the state. And if you're not a programmer, what maintaining state means is if it actually exits out of here and you don't save it somehow, whatever was collected, poof, gone into the great blue sky. So you want to kind of keep that. So that's where you would return the collected data, you would return the field that you want to collect next, and you iterate through this until everything's done. So this function does that for you. Now there's no validation in here as far as validating the data. That I put that on the onus of the AI agent because it has to iterate through it, and I didn't want to bounce back and forth to a function. But if I really wanted to make this more robust on my old school thinking, that every time a user said something, I would pass it into a function and let the function deal with whether or not it's valid and give direction back to the agent. That's something that's up to you guys. Like I'm working on the back end systems. You guys, you're the voice flow agencies that are gonna make this pop. So like learn the voice flow side, I'll learn the back side. This I'm just trying to let you know how it works. So here is where you're gonna see where it pumps this information back. Let me just go back, collects that data there. When it has let's go into where it's complete. That's when it lets it knows it's all done to create the PDF. That's when this path will be fired off, and you'll get a path fired off when it needs, it'll say success, and that's when there's no errors. Where's that one now? Success, right here. So when it gets success, it builds the next missing part of the data based on the required JSON. Like so in the original call, when you asked for all the available fields on the PDF, this will check what fields are required. It'll take what's already been collected. It'll make a comparison. It'll figure out what hasn't been filled out properly, and it'll fire this off to the next step in order to ask that question, or the next AI. Basically, it's the same AI agent that just iterates through. And I'll show you that in a second here. So you can see that when it comes into these captured fields, it asks it for the information. If it comes out to success, it goes into the JSON builder, which is another agent. So this is the agent that I had lots of fun with. So in here, what it's got to do is it's got to format how to ask these questions and do some validations, because I put the onus on this JSON builder agent to be able to do validations. And what it has to do is it has to be able to return a name pair to match what was sent to it as a field, so that it can populate that field when it goes back to the function and then iterates again. I had a lot of tricks with the AI agent being, oh, just a child, and I know it, but I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions even though you don't want me to. So we'll start going on a tangent and not just focusing on the one question. So again, it came into this path rule that I was talking about earlier. So maybe again, I went through so many that I probably could change this, but I had a problem where it was jumping into this too quickly. So I had to be careful with what I put in here on when it would jump in. Now, you guys, if you're any good at this, by all means, keep, let it go. The form field is on where the data that's actually been formatted is returned back to the function that will find out the next field that's required. I hope that's somewhat clear. If you're not understanding, place a comment and I'll respond to you with a better explanation. So this prompt was half of me and half of Grok and half of ChatGPT, like again, I spent probably 5 days getting this to work somewhat decent, and I'm kind of happy where it is now. But I really get, as a programmer, I don't like things going wrong. Like I'm an old school guy. But the funny thing is I called my doctor's office today because I was in for a CAT scan, and I was talking to a human person. Now, this human person was making just as much mistakes as my chatbot. I was kind of laughing at myself because first of all, she didn't get my date of birth right. Like she didn't get my name right. I had to repeat stuff like that. So I'm repeating to a live person and wondering why do people not like chatbots? It's not much different. Anyways, just a little experience in Jerry's life. So once everything has been resolved, it then fires off the complete path, goes to this final function, which actually, if you look into the documentation, you'll find out how this works. There's the API key. And then, and again, this API key is only going to be available for a couple of weeks. It's free to use. You're welcome to look through all these functions. You're welcome to reuse these functions. The reason that the API key is going to be dead within 2 weeks is obviously this is going to be public knowledge, and this is on the dev server, and I don't care if it crashes, and no one's going to get any private information, so I'm not too worried about security. It's all about whether or not I should pursue this, and whether or not you other developers out there, you other AI agencies, want me to create this NCP service, which is basically going to turn out to be a one call. It'll return all the available services or tools or however you want to call it in one packet. And in that packet, your AI agent can say, okay, well, I want to create a PDF, or I want to send an email, or I want to connect to Google Docs. I'm going to offer all the same services that you'll find on Make and Zapier, but and I feel in a simpler way that you don't have to go into my interface to set up zaps or configure mail protocols. That'll all be done from you. You just send it to the API, and it'll be free for anybody on personal use. Even when I get into production, if we get there, free forever if it's personal. Unfortunately, for a commercial, I got to pay the bill somehow, but there'll be a small token charge. And anybody who wants to get onto this project and has an inclination to do that, give me a shout. But again, I'm not going to pursue it unless there's value there. So I hope this whole tutorial and helps you out, the ones who are struggling with creating the AI agents to trigger, which I saw a lot of people on Discord saying they were struggling with, and I said I'd get this video out for them. You can look at the functions, learn from the functions. You can help me out even with, if you got any ideas on how to make these adolescents behave, let me know and PM me in Discord or send me an email or make comments on YouTube. But like and subscribe, support me so I can support you, and have a great day. Bye.
We don't know the truth, it just design. People make it smart. Let the AI do its part.